For more on the North Korean situation, we're joined tonight by John Stolides, Foreign Policy Principal at Trilogy Advisors. John, nice to have you with us. Your reaction to what you just heard, and that is Secretary Tillerson's response. What do you think it means?
Well, I think your correspondent is on target there. I think there's going to be a serious rethinking on the part of the Trump administration on foreign policy, and that was made very clear when President Trump announced that it's the end of President Obama's quote-unquote strategic patience. The problem is there aren't a lot of good hands to be dealt here. North Korea has anywhere from 8 to 20 nuclear weapons right now, and even if none of them can reach the United States, they can wreak devastating havoc on the economies of South Korea and Japan, as well as their societies.
And of course, the United States has 50,000 American troops in South Korea. So when we talk options, what real options are on the table to get North Korea to change its behavior? You heard the president today saying we got somebody doing some really bad things. You saw Secretary Tillerson's response. I mean, it seems a lot like saber rattling of what we heard before we went into Iraq. What do you make of it?
Well, I think one of the cards that President Trump can play when he meets with Xi Jinping is the possibility that the U.S. imposes secondary sanctions on all companies that are doing any type of business with North Korea. As your correspondent noted, China is really the reason that the North Korean economy is still functioning to any degree. And if there are secondary sanctions, it'll have a very serious impact on hundreds, potentially thousands of Chinese companies that are doing major to minor business with North Korea. That's something Xi Jinping does not want to take back home to Beijing, and it could be the beginning of a very interesting diplomatic game between President Trump and Xi Jinping.
So do you think that there is going to be a serious negotiation about the future here, or is it just going to be a meeting of understanding what both sides are? I mean, I wonder how much can actually be accomplished in 48 hours. The president has railed on China when it comes to trade, claiming that they're stealing our jobs, manipulating the currency. I mean, that could take a full day's work right there before you even get to North Korea. So it seems to me like the president is really relying on China to do something here.
I think what he's trying to do is to let Xi Jinping know that it's not simply going to be a meeting of diplomatic platitudes and talking about what is working in both countries' interests. I think there's going to be a decidedly different tone coming out of this meeting. It'll involve trade, it'll involve North Korea, and I think you're also going to see a very strong messaging on the ability of the U.S. Navy and all maritime forces to be able to traverse the South China Sea and challenge China's new sovereignty claims there. So I think it's going to be a multifaceted agenda that the two leaders will be dealing with.
No one's really asked this question, but is truly the United States in a position to overwhelm North Korea militarily?
The U.S. can do so. The problem, Ed, is that before that job is finished, North Korea can rain thousands and thousands of rockets and shells on Seoul, South Korea, and utterly destroy that economy. And remember, South Korea is one of the top 5 economies in the world, 5th or 6th on any given day. So we would lose South Korea. And I don't mean to talk about it in such simplistic terms, but you can't just lob missiles at North Korea. It's an extraordinarily difficult situation we're dealing with, and Kim Jong-un has positioned himself very well to be able to extort major powers around the world, including the United States.
John Stolides, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us tonight. Appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.